Hello, folks. It's wonderful to see so many of you. It's always difficult knowing what's the right time when people are from different time zones, different unis, what's going to work. We try and make it roughly lunchtime so that you can hang out and learn from each other, because that's the important part, right? You might know each other's names from the discussions, but you certainly haven't seen anybody's face. For those of you who don't know, my name's Karen Tharby. You're probably sick of my face and my voice. I moderate this unit, and I do that on behalf of the fabulous Ola, who is our eGrad school coordinator. So she's here making sure that everything goes, which is amazing. She's the one that puts these programs together and gives us the opportunity. So as I welcome everybody to this session, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where QUT sits, which is where I'm coming to you from today, which is the lands of the Turrbal and the Yagara people. Feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know what the Indigenous lands are that you're coming from, if it's somewhere different, just so that we've got a cultural understanding. And for those of you who are able, you've got the bandwidth, then you're in the right room. Feel free to use your camera and your microphone as we go through. We'll be a small group, we always are. So the more you share with each other, the more you learn from each other. And that's what I'd like this session to be. If you can't, I completely understand. So you don't need to make any apologies. If you don't have the access, then you don't. I'm just glad that you are here. And for those of you who are joining asynchronously, which is just the recording afterwards, hello and welcome. And I'm sorry that you couldn't be with us live. Haha, hello from Toowoomba. Right, so first of all, I want to throw it open to you. Has anybody started week 3 activities or content? Do you have any thoughts, comments, questions to start off with? If not, we can start doing the deeper dive into informational interviewing, and I'll get you to do some practical stuff. Where are you at with the module? Are you enjoying it? Is this useful for you? I know your personal strengths were not surprises, nor should they be. Has it started to make you think about anything differently than you thought you would?
I've been really enjoying the module so far, actually. I put this in my comment for like the week 3 stuff. But I guess coming out of my undergrad in 2023, I think that would have been. I was still quite young and I felt very like unequipped to actually bring my skills into the workplace. I've mentioned this before, but I was an animation and marketing dual degree student and I knew what my skills were in the animation side of things. And then as soon as it came to the marketing, I was just like, I'm good at academic writing. Like I graduated with a high GPA, but I don't really know what that actually says about me as someone in the industry, like working independently and not just being given, assignments. So I think that this module has been very helpful for starting to kind of like envision what that actually means and at least like how to make those first steps into like networking and trying to like advocate for my own skill set and that sort of thing, even if ultimately like this is just like the very basic foundations to be able to like actually go out and have that experience and then it'll feel like a really actionable thing. But this is a lot of really good guidance for being able to do that.
Robin, I love that. But I especially appreciate the idea of I didn't know where my skills, what skills I needed and where my skills might be useful. Um, and I think it's really important to know that by the end of this, you still won't know. And then by the end of your research degree, you still won't know because it's not a finite question that has an answer. It's something that you will continually look at. And if this gives you a worksheet and a set of tools for you to keep revisiting this, I would really encourage you to do that. I'm interested in the difference. So, Robin, it sounded like you were a continuing researcher in that you didn't take a career break or have a different career in between your undergrad to your research. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I think there was about a year between me finishing my undergraduate and me applying for my postgraduate. I'm doing my master's of philosophy now. And in that year, I was kind of like, just working like freelance as an artist and doing some retail stuff and trying to work out where I could go with my marketing degree because frankly, animation, I love the artwork. I love making things. The industry for animation is kind of falling apart right now, and it's just not a great place to be going in. But I was looking at all these like job listings for marketing, and I just didn't know where to go with it because so much of like what I was seeing on like Seek.com and Indeed and all of this was just like writing captions for Instagram posts, and there's just no passion in that for me at all. So this was really part of it was just, yeah, wanting to explore other opportunities and to like diversify my skill set a little bit. Yeah.
Is there is there anyone else in the room who's also been on that continuous journey? So I did my undergrad, now I'm doing my postgrad. So I still feel like I'm in student mode rather than professional mode. Who am I as a professional? Is there anyone else who feels the same way? Or how
I didn't
different?
go straight on, but I still don't know who I am as a professional.
It's always a fun one. It's like, who am I? Yeah, I haven't decided what I'm going to be when I grow up. For those of you who had a career and a profession, maybe several, after their undergrad careers, after their undergrad study, coming back to postgrad, what's the difference in your journey from what Robin's been sharing? Does it make it easier or harder?
Hello.
Hi, Layla.
Hello. Uh, Honestly speaking, so I've studied 18 years in high school, 4 years for bachelor, 3 years master, 4 years PhD, 4 years lecturer, research fellow, and then I came back to university. How many years I studied? From my whole of my life, I just away from the 6 year of my early life. I've been away from the education. And still, I have a nail. Still, I have a nail. But I'm experiencing something very, very new now. I'm in age 40 and now I'm first year student of optometry. Um, Apart from Bachelor of Science, when you uh, drift to the Master of Philosophy and or Master of Science or PhD and then career, whatever you be more independent, go to the research area, in somehow I felt that I lost some of my skills.
Wow.
Um, I think that some part of when you go to the postgraduate doctorate, it looks like although you try to build your own way, but your critical thinking, analytical thinking in bachelor and do some basic things, it's more than when you go to the another field because I think that I lost a couple of most of my uh mathematic skill, physics, anything, and those help me my brain. It helped my brain cell to develop because you think, you use them. When you go to the research, you will be platted. I think that you will go there, and then you will be like this. It means that development of the brain cell, it's a step you try to use to in something and just to figure out that. When I come back to the university again, I feel more younger now. I think, oh, okay, I'm enjoying. I'm using my brain. I can think better now. Okay, 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 okay. Oh, good, good, good.
Oh, that's beautiful that it's
Yeah.
a refreshing for you. For me, the more study I do, the older I feel.
No, when I dedicate myself to a study, I say, oh, I enjoy to memorize, to solve problem or anything. Oh, because, oh, I'm refreshing my mind. It look like I try to exercise my brain, my cell brain again, and it
I
helped
think
me.
it's important to differentiate as well skills that we are using and skills that we have capacity for, because numbers aren't my thing, right? I can't math to save myself. Um, I stopped focusing on maths a long time ago in high school. Every year, somebody teaches me how to do a pivot table in Excel every year, because I have to do it once a year for annual reporting. So I've learned how to do it, but I don't have the skill to do that. I have to relearn it every year. So it's not something that stays with me. But as soon as I refresh myself, it's like, I know this, I know how to get this done. What I'd encourage you all to think about is skills are muscles that we either exercise regularly or we don't. It's a skill that you may have that may be sitting dormant for ages, for a year, like how to build a pivot table. But if it's required of you, you have the capacity to jump back into that swimming pool. And you do need a little bit of refresher, but don't discard skills that you built that you're just not exercising daily. They're a cumulative list. So all of the stuff that you used to be able to do, you can still do with a bit of a refresher. So using a scale of, expert at, familiar with, I've seen that in terms of this is how competent I currently feel. But what you can do better than almost everybody is that massive deep dive back in to refresh yourself and then go, right, now I remember where I'm at. Now I remember what I can do, and let's go and do that. Your skill and knowledge in navigating education systems is extraordinary. Because let's be honest, you're right, it's the thing that you've done probably the most of. So, at the very least, your expertise in higher education could lead to professional roles all over the place. That might not be where your first goal or your end goal is, but it might be a short term goal or a temporary goal to get you to where you want to be, because there's more professional jobs than there are academic jobs, for example. Oh, this is fascinating. What other questions, comments do you have about the module so far, what you've learned, what you were surprised by, or would you like to get into informational interview? Or would you prefer to do your own thing?
I'm still having a disconnect between doing the stuff in the module and going, yep, cool, I get it, and then applying it in real life.
What
So,
do I do with this? Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
sitting there trying to update my LinkedIn profile and just kind of going, "Nah, I guess I did some stuff, or I don't see how it all works together. And, do I like how do I put it all together? And, what do I want? And I know that's a big question. Is it that, only I can answer as well, but like just kind of understanding like maybe examples. I don't really know what I'm asking, but just kind of knowing that there's that little bit of a disconnect between what I'm doing online and then what I'm trying to do in real life.
It's the big picture. I get what it's for, and I get that these are individual steps, but is this actually a strategy almost? Is this a one-off thing? How often do I do it? Is this a common thing? What do other people think? I want to open the floor to as many of you as possible. I am by no means the only expert in the room. You're more expert than I am in this bit.
Can I talk?
Yes, Layla.
When I go through the modules, it's really exciting. Especially I try to see I'm aligned with those skills. I have been my brain has been categorized to this way, those four skills, interests, everything. When I read the module, I say, oh, okay, look like I missed this one, this one, this one, this one. And the end of the module, when I have a look, had overlooked all of them, that's one, okay, Layla, I've done all of them unconsciously. Why you think? I try to find something that I haven't done. Then I think, okay, for that job, this job, that job. Okay, unconsciously, I didn't know this category, this skill, this interest, this priority. I didn't know about them at all. Unconsciously, I use all of them to
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah.
And
Okay. So
and
when we're
I was a
building
bit
new
I was a
skills,
bit sad because I try to find the gap that I haven't done. I try, okay, you've done something wrong. I try to find that thing that I haven't done. So I thought, okay, something I should learn, and I should find that I haven't done. I want to learn that. Then I will take that skill and go, and whatever I try to think, okay, I consciously use that, use that. Okay, what's wrong? And still,
it's an
still,
interesting
I think
being
that there should
aware of
be
your
a
skills.
magic. Sorry, sorry, I interrupt you.
Being aware of your skills and then your additional skills that you might have been reminded of, there may not be skills gaps. There might only be experience gaps or application gaps.
Yeah,
So
Karen, I
there's
agree
going to be
with
gaps
you.
somewhere, but it might not be, I need to learn this extra thing. So there's a skill that I need to learn that I haven't learned yet. It may not be. It may just be, this is me. I come complete with these skills and I'm still learning new ones as I go. But I'm a complete human and I'm ready to be employable right now. Perhaps the issue is, how do I connect my capacity with my skills, with what's out there, and how do I land a job that requires those skills? And it's potentially the way we describe how we've achieved those experiences that either resonate or doesn't resonate with a future employer. It's like, oh, we're looking for a different set of experiences. It's unlikely to be a different set of skills. So there's a few different ways of looking at this. Are there some new skills for me to learn? Perhaps the only skill that's remaining to learn is, how do I apply the skills that I've already got and put them into a new context? So there might not be anything new. It's just the way we describe it. Bianca, with you talking about the disconnect between, I've got this list of stuff I can do, I've got this list of who I want to be and how I show up at work. Where do I put it? How do I live it? And how do I get work from it? Is the disconnect less about where do I put it? Because you can add these things into your profile, either an academic profile or a LinkedIn profile. You can add things in, but is it more, so what? what do I do with this going forward in my research and then in job search?
Look, I think
Really
it's a little
enjoy.
bit of like both things, maybe. Like I'm very much at like a crisis of the self coming into this year, which is why I came to this course to begin with. But I think for me, coming from a very like varied background, right? So, I'm not like I've done 20 different things in between my undergrad and my PhD now, and I'm suddenly trying to market myself as a researcher, right? And I'm like, what do I do with all of like my other
My
very
previous hats.
skills?
Yeah. Anyone else feel a little bit like that? It sounds to me like Robin and Layla are in one side of this spectrum where they've done one thing for a long time. Layla for longer than Robin, but you've done the study and the researcher. You've worn the student hat and then the academic hat on top of that. Others of us, like Bianca, have worn multiple hats, and we're trying to go, do I take a hat off so that I put on the research hat? Or how do I juggle wearing this many hats? What does that even mean? Is that closer to it, Bianca?
Yeah, I think so. Kind of having these converging identities, but feeling like I'll use LinkedIn as the example just because I was doing that prior to joining this. But like how do I become a cohesive person when I have all of these like disparate little parts? And does that look like I'm flighty or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
unfocused or that I'm going to jump between things to a potential like job market?
I actually very much relate to that because even though like my main pathway has just been from university to like postgraduate, I also have all of my like freelance work on the side. I've been like selling my artwork at like local markets and like conventions and that sort of thing. And if I have to move on from that and make it less of a thing for like the sake of my career, then I'm okay with that. But like being an artist is also very important to me, and that's something that I'm always going to want to make time for. So it's like on
Yeah.
one hand, having that little background in like my own sort of like small business almost is probably a good way to argue for like my ambition and my ability to like manage myself. But at the same time, I'm like, is that potentially a deterrent because it shows that I can't just commit to one thing? I don't know.
I love this discussion. I, my personal background, do you know what? I expected to be an ancient history teacher, and I didn't not want to go from school to uni back to school again because otherwise it's like just read the textbook because that's all I'm doing. What use am I in a classroom? So I took a gap 6 months to go visit all the ancient sites that I studied, and I came back 6 years later. Whoops. And because of that, what industry gave me credit for bumming around the world for years? I was a travel agent, dead set. Then I became a travel manager for universities. I was in a travel agency being a corporate travel manager for universities. Then I went, I want to be on the other side of that desk. These are my people, not these people. That's how I got into universities. And I went back into training, recruitment. So that's one of so I've worked in travel, I've worked in business development, I've worked in recruitment, I've worked in student support and first use programs. And now I'm a careers educator. What's the common thread? I'm proud of however all the hats that I've worn. One, so that I can be poster child for career reinvention and normalize that for people. I think that's really important in my role. But the other reason is I've worked in various industries, and if I sell it as a strength, then it is. If I sell it as Karen didn't know what she wanted to do when she grew up, I look flighty and high risk and non-committal. There are people who work at my university who have been a careers educator at QUT for 20 years. 20 years at QUT. I can never compete with them for depth. So I don't try. What is different about me to them is they know everything about the way it works at QT. I know how it works in a recruiting company. I know how it works in corporation. I know what it's like outside of universities. That's my strength. But if we're competing on years, I'll never win that. So I don't try. My encouragement to you is through all these disparate strings that we've pulled on, I'm a really strong believer on pull as many strings as you need to until you find a place to settle for a while, and then you'll still probably pull another string. So pull on as many as you want. Never apologize for the breadth that you offer. But understand, are you selling depth? Or are you selling breadth? Or are you selling, I'm a T candidate because I have both to varying degrees. And what you'll find is you'll have depth as an artist. You'll have depth as a researcher. That will become your deepest one, because by the time you've finished your research program, there is no one in the world who knows your topic better than you. But it's thin. It's as thin as it's deep. Once you've solved that research question, it's not a question anymore. There's no gap. We don't need you there. You're going to have to move. And you can. You can move to a different area of research and go just as deep on something else. But you're going to have to use your breadth to move even just a little bit sideways. So Bianca, I'd encourage you, what are the threads that you're pulling on? There is common things throughout all of that. So for me, it's coaching. It's enabling an audience. And even when I was a travel agent, I did that. When I was in business development, I did that. So what are the themes that are pulled from a bunch of different places? Maybe that's your hat. I'm a coach advocate is my label. And I do that in research and careers and business development. And so if you think of the umbrella, there are stable threads, the spokes that come through, and they come from different contexts. But you are you. You are a fully fledged, well-developed human with those skills. And it's just about the way you choose to express what hat you choose to wear. So your current identity as researcher, is that your future identity? What we have to do is work out, who was I? Who am I? Who will I be? How do we combine literally that terminology, put it together and go, this is who I am? There's a lecturer that I work with. Her name is Professor Yvonne Miller. She's amazing. She refers to herself as a design psychologist. Just an FYI, there's no such thing. She made that up. Her background is in psychology. Her forum, where she works at the moment, is she's the director of the Centre for Design. So what she does is work with hospitals and schools and things to work out what are optimal design spaces. She refers to herself as a design psychologist. You're allowed to make up your own job title. There's no such thing. But that's what brings together her previous identity with her current position. But it speaks to the value that she adds in that space. She brings both of those together. So maybe throw out some of the terminology that you might use, previous identities. Let's throw it out and workshop it. Let's brainstorm. What could this be described as? Don't want to pick on you, Bianca, but if you're interested in doing it, let's start with you. Or Joanna and Swapna, please feel free. Anyone else who's on the call, feel free to contribute. Do you want to start with you, Bianca? You don't have to.
I'm happy to go.
Okay, throw out some labels for us. Let's see what we can come up with.
Event organizer,
Okay,
workshop facilitator,
okay,
program trainer, writer, artist, researcher, archivist. Is that enough?
that gives us a few to play with. I'm not hearing random threads at all. I'm hearing a pretty consistent focus on you're a people person that's passionate about knowledge delivery, information delivery. That's event coordination. I'm bringing people together. I'm organizing behind the scenes potentially. That's bringing like-minded people together to improve their life. Now, maybe that was doing weddings, or maybe that was doing a learning activity, kind of doesn't matter. It's bringing in the same skills. Who do you do it for? What is the purpose of it? And what's the impact for the fact that you do it? Throw some ideas together for Bianca. Either write them in the chat or unmute and give her some ideas of how could we do the design psychologist idea with some of the roles, previous roles that Bianca's had to go, this is who I am now. There'll be lots of ideas. If you're too shy to speak, write things in the chat. What I'm hearing is people-centered. So that might be one branch of this umbrella. It's people-centered. It's all about bringing people together. That's so this is maybe, have you tried AI? Have you tried putting it into ChatGPT or whatever your preferred option is for a language model and throw out these job titles and say, combine this into one phrase, combine this into one line of my elevator pitch. Get AI to help us do that. Let's see what we come up with. For me, what I hear is it's people-centered, it's learning deep, and it's impact-driven, because when you put people together, either as a facilitator or as a program coordinator, when you put people together, you're bringing in new perspectives and people learn more together than they do separately.
Thank you. It's nice to have somebody kind of be able to see it working together.
And then when you put your profile together, so you can have these individual themes, individual job titles. Don't be afraid to change your job title to something that makes better sense in a new context.
I've never thought to do that.
We're very compliant. It's like our payslip said, this was my job. But
Yeah.
in a different context, does anyone know what that job actually was? Does your previous job description actually tell people what it was that you did? Now, I'm not suggesting put neuroscientists down when that isn't what we're doing. It's not about being fraudulent or overstating what we do. But if you've got PA or event assistant if that undermines what it is you actually did or doesn't cover what it is you actually did, reframe that. And the only people you need to check in with about that is if you've got people from that previous job who you might use as a referee, and you might then run it by them and go, hey, that had a context inside that role, but outside that role, I need to explain it a bit differently. This is what I've just chosen to call it. Are you comfortable endorsing me in that space? Unless you're claiming something you don't have, why would anyone care? It's like, yes, Bianca did work with me 5 years ago in this role for a year. Yes, I really keen to talk about her skills. Who cares what the job title was? So if there are job titles that more directly impact what it is that you do, Robin, if you've got your own business on the side and you want to call you, when you've got your own business and there's an ABN, you can call yourself whatever you want. You can be CEO, you can be CFO, you can be all the C's and O's, you can call yourself lead consultant. It doesn't matter what you label yourself as. The point is, have I got an idea of what that means when you tell me that? Is that the message that you want to deliver? When I was a travel agent, I don't put travel agent on my CV anymore. It's 1,000 years ago, but I wouldn't put travel agent anyway. I put universities manager when I was trying to get into universities. I was a travel agent. I managed the travel bookings for university professors. So technically, I am just a travel agent, but that doesn't help me get a job in a university. University's travel manager was exactly what I did. And that made universities a little more comfortable going, oh, good, you understand the uni environment. You understand our weird hierarchies. Yes, I did. If it helps people understand where these threads are common, change it, amend it, adjust it so that it feels more like that's all what I did. And even if the job title stays the same, the skills that you highlight throughout that you can then use as common threads through your LinkedIn profile, the skills that you're using, what do you talk about when you say I was an event coordinator? Maybe it was weddings. You're not going to be talking about limousines and flowers and stuff like that because it's not relevant outside of weddings. What is the common thread that is relevant in the new contexts, even if it was only 10% of your job? That's the part you talk about because that's the part you're bringing with you. Flower arranging began. That's not what it's about. So emphasize the skills and what you did. So if anybody's had a part-time job as a barista, if you worked at a coffee shop, call yourself whatever you want. But if you say that you worked in a coffee shop, you don't need to tell me on your resume or in your profile that I served coffee. I wiped down tables, because unless you're going to be serving coffee and wiping down tables in your next job, it could not be less relevant. But every coffee shop employee builds networking skills, troubleshooting skills, conflict management skills, dealing with difficult people skills. They're the skills that how to notice what needs doing without being told. The initiative that requires, that's the stuff you reference. So you can still put barista if you want as your job title, but the only information you put about the fact that you were a barista is all this other stuff that then speaks to who you are in your next job, not that you're the one to make the copies. So it's never about the tasks. Take your tasks out of all of your resumes and job descriptions and LinkedIn profiles as much as you can, because unless the task is relevant for your next job, tasks that you did that they're not going to ask you to do makes you look less relevant. It's the skills that you build while you're there that make you relevant. And where there are tasks that are in common, talk about those. So what we're looking for is, what are the common themes? What are the threads that pull together between research and event coordination? Well, first of all, that's project management. There's your Venn diagram. The bit that's in the middle is project management for sure. So you're a project management expert, having negotiated that in a variety of different environments, corporate, private business, and research. And so you apply those skills because you have an understanding of different environments. You can now move to even another environment and still offer the same value. It's not a solution. It's got to be an identity that you relate to. But what I would suggest, my LinkedIn profile is not the bee's knees, but I have been on it a long time and it is my job. So it might be more thoughtfully developed than yours may be. I do not put my job title in my byline because that means every time I change jobs, I need a new byline. And what happens when what I was in last year, which is I was in a portfolio career where I had 4 different jobs. Which one am I going to put in my byline? So I write labels that I want to relate to. So currently I've got career strategist, leadership coach, sessional academic, researcher. You get a sense of who I am through those labels. It's not just one label. And then I pull those into my next job, if I need a new job, to say which of those are relevant. I think career strategist, leadership coach, if I manage a team anywhere, I'm going to leave those two in. That goes with me. Does this help you? Just confuse you? Does it make it even harder to describe your elevator pitch?
No, that's very helpful insight. Thank you.
I never want people to feel like you have to park your previous identity at the door and now I've got to build a new one. And this new one might be temporary. And so how do I know what it's going to be next? Bring the skills and the pieces that make you valuable in every single role you've ever done. What's made you valuable? Why do people gravitate to you in any job? What are you the fixer for? For me, it's never spreadsheets and it's never maths because I'm useless at that. So I'm not the go-to person for that. But I am often the go-to for strategy. I'm good at thinking bigger. I'm good at thinking past things. So I like the word strategist because that suits me. I'm going to use that in a range of different contexts. Don't use that word if it isn't you. But what's the theme that you take with you? What role do you play in a team? If you are the organizer, let's AI some synonyms for organizational skills that make you sound more expert, that you can go, I am the facilitator. I am the advocate for. I am all we've got to do is get creative with our verbs, turn them into nouns and go, that's my hat. Until we find our space where we are a design psychologist, even though if you looked up the dictionary for design psychologist, or you look for a job that said design psychologist, you'll never find one. Because that only belongs to a one. It's unique to her, and that's why I love it. What's unique to you? themes that I hear from Bianca are organizer, educator, learner, lifelong learner who shares that knowledge and organizes things so that other people can do the same thing. That's one identity. And yes, it's multiple contexts, but that's how you make it sound like I had a plan. I had a career plan through this whole thing. And it might not be linear, but career planning usually isn't. Good careers often are not. It's called Crumboltz's design happenstance. It's taking advantage of random happenstance things that happen and go, I can use that. I can grow in this role. I'll do this for a while. And then you find a completely different role. You go, I can use that and grow in that role. So I'll go do something different. Planned happenstance it's an official career development theory. You're allowed to make your own linear journey. It won't look linear to people who've done one thing and just continued to do it or got promoted in one stream. That will happen less and less now. That will be the outlier. Your experiences where it's this melting pot of different strings that you've pulled on that build different strengths as you go, that then come together to go, this is the value that I add as an organizer, educator, mentor, moderator, researcher. All of that comes into your research identity. Is anyone coming up with some different words that they want to throw out for themselves? What are you thinking now of adding? Or different things that you're juggling?
The word coordination came up for me while we were kind of talking about all that, which sounds a bit nicer than like management, which doesn't feel like me at all. Feels
And the
too
whole
busy.
differential between leader and manager often has a negative connotation, but they're incredibly required. All right, so let's find some other words. Synonyms for coordinator. Director, manager, authority, engineer, brain, architect, genius. There we go. This sounds like, now, see, what's interesting is I've just looked up the dictionary for synonyms and different words that come up. It is tactician, strategist, campaigner, planner, director. So director as in one who directs, not one who has the job title director. Rocket scientist, interesting. Maneuverer, diplomatist. Some of these just make you chuckle, but others are just going, I wouldn't use that word, but I like the point it was getting to. So maybe just input that word and then go, and where does that take? We get to set our own identities. We get to call ourselves whatever we want. So we can change these labels. But we also need a label that helps identify our relevance for the next thing that we're looking to do. We need to say, hey, I belong in this club. I'm one of you, not an outlier. So we need to know what we're aspiring to go, how can I put that in the way I describe myself already, even if I haven't done any of that in that context. I've just done it in different contexts. How can I bring it through so I look like I already know what I'm doing? in some ways, it's just wordplay, it's semantics. And for researchers who are usually so deeply authentic and very, very conscious of imposter syndrome, and I can't claim to be something that I am not already a full-blown expert in. We're really tentative in that space, right? I can't claim that because I'm just learning. These word games can be quite confronting because it's like, oh, that's not a job I've held. Do you have the skills? Who would you be working with? We often forget that depending on who else is in the room, you could very well be the expert in the room in a range of different things that you don't consider yourself to be an expert in. But compared to everybody else, my husband always used to, he's an engineer, forgive him for that. He always used to take pride in saying, an expert is somebody who knows 1% more than the rest of the people in the room. And there's something to that. So you're not necessarily saying, I am the guru of this thing, but around this boardroom table, I have a contribution I can make. So in terms of defining your professional identity, what contribution can you make? You don't have to be the expert. You might be the most junior of the experts, but you are still expert. If you want to find work in academia, you'll be teaching first year undergrads. Even if it's units that you've never seen before in your entire life, even if you've never studied those units, you are still the expert in that room because you are the expert learner, the expert researcher, and expert in an affiliated field. That means that you can go and get the knowledge you need to be that expert for the first years. Imagine if we only got to teach what our research topic was as an academic. Imagine the weird and random topics we'd have to study in undergrad that matched our lecturer's research topic. That's pretty random. You are the sum total of everything you've studied and every role you've ever had. You've brought something with you from that that makes you better at the next thing you do. Embrace it. Have I excited you, inspired you, got you all excited about how to put your identity together? I haven't given you any solutions, so this is still work in progress, and I'm aware of that. As you're formalizing your identity, find one person that you can talk to learn from them. So this week's content is all about informational interviewing. I want you to do an informational interview before we finish this 5 weeks. So I want you to find somebody to talk to, and it is just all about them. It's not about you. You're not asking for advice for you, because how can they give you advice? They don't know you. They can easily tell you what they did. So focus on them. Ask them what they did. How did they develop their identity? Is there an industry that you're interested in, and do you know how to do that? So let me share my screen super quickly. I've got it in somewhere. So can you see my screen, first of all? Can you see my LinkedIn? You can't, that's unhelpful. I have not pressed the right button. Well, I clicked the screen I wanted to share, but I forgot to press the word share. Can you see it now? Can you see my LinkedIn? Awesome. So there's a few different ways you can do this. Think of an organization that you are interested to work for. or you can find alumni from your institution. So there's two ways of doing it. Say you want to work at, actually, I did this in a workshop the other day, and somebody said, and I said, give me an idea, and they said Formula One, and I went, oh boy, I don't know if I'm going to be able to demonstrate this, but I did. So I've looked up Formula One, right? This is the organization. What I now want to do is go into people who works there. There are 4,000 people apparently working or affiliated with Formula One. Did not know that. If you wanted to say, I just want to talk to people working around Formula One who have PhDs, who are in research, what does that do? Add PhD to that. There's 3 people. 3 people. So if I wanted to have an informational interview with somebody who has a PhD and who works in Formula One, I've already got my list. Then I look into those people and go, where can I find them and who are they and what could I ask them? Now, if I can do that with Formula One, I can do that with any of you. For those of you who are, I mean, you're all affiliated with a university. I work at QT at the moment. So here's what I can do. I find, instead of the people, what I'm looking at is the company. I go on the web page, the LinkedIn page for my university. And in this one, instead of under people, for staff members, it says alumni. And you do the same thing. 186,000, that's not helping me narrow this down. What if I want to do people who have a PhD, finished it 5 years ago, so they're already out in the marketplace? Oh, and I pressed send. So that runs it down to 148. PhD and microbiology. I can't spell because you're watching me. Microbiology. Goodness me. Right. Can you see how that moved from 186,000 to 300 alumni that have PhDs in microbiology, I would assume. And then the people who are most connected to me based on that shortlist come on. It's a really cool idea to use LinkedIn to go, you can do that with an organization. If I want to work in the CSIRO, I don't know anybody at CSIRO, so I can't find anyone to talk to. Again, look at their people, and then you're looking for people with things in common with you. So you might put your institution there to go, hi, I was an alumni. We're both alumni of JCU. Maybe it's people with a PhD in your field. Use the search field to narrow it down, and you'll find amazingly relevant people. That helps you identify who you might want to talk to. And again, all you're going to ask them is go, so I see that I found you on LinkedIn. We are both alumni of X university. We are both studying a PhD in, and I'm really curious where you were before to where you are now. How did you get them? What did you try? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What do you like about working at the CSIRO? The more of these conversations you have, the better an idea you'll get of how suitable certain careers are for you compared to others. You'll need to talk to more than one person, but if you could do one informational interview every 6 months, and you did 6 across your research program, you've got 6 different stories with maybe contradictory information, which is fabulous, because then you'll get to hear different perspectives. From the end of that, you'll get a really clear idea of I'm keen on this, I'm not keen on this, or they've given me a new idea I could try. If you were to do one a month for a year, 12 conversations at the end of 12 months, in a range of different disciplines, if you want, maybe try a government conversation, maybe try a research institute, maybe try an academic, try some different conversations, learn different things. The only thing they can tell you is what worked for them and what their experience was. But the more experience you gather, you can then adapt it, apply it to your own context and go, you sound like my kind of person. I think I'll like the same kind of things. Well, then I can see how that worked for you. Now I know I need to look somewhere different or a different type of job, even if it's the same organization. Different kind of role would suit you better. Learn from other people's experiences. It's been really helpful to talk to people online today. To hear other people go, oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, I struggle with how to make this relevant, how to make it make sense in my own head. It's kind of nice to know it's not just us. Do that in a corporate sense and you'll get even more information. Any final questions, comments, observations? Was this useful? Did you enjoy hanging out with each other? Having live conversation? Let me know in the feedback what worked, what didn't, what you'd rather do, what you'd like to do again. Would you like to do this again in week 5? We can. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to turn the recording off, but I'm going to hang out. If you've got another question that you'd like